At 6:30 this morning, your brain likely engaged in this really complex psychological negotiation, and it lost.
Oh, yeah. It almost always loses that one.
Right. Like within 3 seconds of your alarm going off, before your feet even touched the floor, you probably just surrendered to a piece of plastic buzzing on your nightstand.
You hadn't even started the day, and you were already waving the white flag.
Exactly. And today, we are taking a deep dive into that exact instinct. Because the material we're using to decode this is, well, it's going to sound entirely unexpected at first.
It really is. It's not your typical psychology journal.
No, not at all. We are looking at an excerpt from an English language learning audio program. It's called Speak English with Class, featuring these two speakers named Anna and Jake.
Which is, an incredibly unconventional place to find high-level behavioral science.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because while Anna and Jake are technically just teaching vocabulary to ESL students, if you look at the subtext of their lessons, they are delivering this profound and honestly surprisingly funny masterclass on the psychology of morning motivation.
They really are. They completely break down how we build habits.
Yeah, and why we have this overwhelming biological urge to just quit when things get even slightly difficult. It proves that sometimes the most universally applicable life advice is hiding right there in these highly specialized spaces.
That's our mission in this deep dive, really, to look past the language lesson and decode the underlying mechanisms of our own behavior.
Right, getting to the core of it.
Exactly. We're going to examine why we constantly self-sabotage, how we fundamentally misunderstand what success actually looks like on a neurological level,
Which is a huge one, yeah.
and why the most mundane, boring actions are actually the only things that create massive, lasting change.
So to get into that, we have to look at Jake's morning routine from the audio program, because it perfectly captures this daily struggle.
It's so relatable.
It really is. So Jake's alarm rings at 6:30, he stares at it, and he literally says out loud, "Nope, I quit today."
Just immediate resignation.
Right. But then he manages to drag himself to the kitchen to make coffee, and the machine takes like 2 seconds too long to brew,
And his immediate reaction is, that's it, I quit coffee.
which is a complete lie because he takes a sip a second later and immediately unquits coffee.
I mean, the brain is just incredibly adept at generating catastrophic narratives over minor friction.
Oh, totally. A 2-second delay registers as an insurmountable obstacle.
Right. And then he walks outside, his bus is a couple of minutes late, and his brain instantly goes, fine, I quit the bus.
I'll just live at this bus stop now.
Exactly. It is incredibly traumatic.
But the realization he comes to is actually super profound. He realizes we don't actually quit in those moments.
We just talk like we want to quit.
Yes. At every single minor inconvenience, we announce our resignation to the coffee machine, the bus, the alarm clock, but our bodies just keep walking.
What's fascinating here is the massive gap between our dramatic internal monologue and our actual physical persistence.
It's like two different people operating at once.
It really is. When the brain encounters friction, like the bus being late, it registers a localized stress response. Your internal monologue catastrophizes the situation to justify returning to a state of baseline comfort.
Which usually means just going back to bed.
Right. But the physical body, which is driven by ingrained routine, overrides that panic and simply boards the bus anyway.
And this disconnect directly challenges the conventional Hollywood image we have of what success is supposed to look like.
Oh, absolutely. The Hollywood image being the big stage, the sweeping soundtrack, the crowds clapping.
That sudden moment of triumph. But true success is rarely that loud, is it?
No, it's actually fiercely quiet. It is simply the act of not stopping when things are boring or slow or when absolutely nobody is clapping for you.
Yeah.
Success isn't a miraculous singular event. It's just the uncelebrated refusal to stop walking while your brain is actively screaming at you to quit.
Let me ask you a psychological pushback question here, though.
Sure, go ahead.
Is this daily dramatic complaining, like this I quit reflex that Jake has, is that actually just a weird coping mechanism for our brains?
How do you mean?
Like, is it letting steam out of a kettle so we don't actually explode and give up entirely?
That is a very astute way to frame it, actually.
Yeah.
Vocalizing I quit functions very much like a psychological release valve.
So it's helpful.
In a way, yes. By giving voice to the frustration, you're releasing the acute pressure of the moment without actually abandoning the overarching goal of getting to work.
Ah, so it lowers your immediate cortisol level.
Exactly. The danger, however, is when the I quit monologue stops being a temporary release valve and starts becoming your actual long-term plan.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that makes sense. So if we accept that success is just putting one foot in front of the other, we crash straight into the next problem.
Which is looking at the actual distance we have to travel.
Right. When the goal ahead of us feels impossibly huge, it triggers a completely different kind of paralysis.
And Anna and Jake use this brilliant metaphor of a mountain to explain this.
Yeah, the mountain metaphor is great because when you look at big dreams, whether that's running a 5K, passing a C1 level English exam, or writing a novel, they look like this massive, impossible wall of rock.
You stand at the bottom, look up, and your brain just says, absolutely not.
No way. But structurally, a mountain isn't just one giant solid rock. It's made of millions of tiny rocks.
The deconstruction of a massive goal is essential for bypassing the brain's threat detection system.
Right, because you don't jump from 0 to running 5 kilometers in a single afternoon. You run 5 minutes today. You run 7 minutes tomorrow.
When you look at a massive goal in its entirety, your amygdala actually perceives it as a threat.
A threat, really?
Yes, because of the sheer caloric and mental energy required to achieve it.
Oh, that makes so much sense from an evolutionary standpoint.
But breaking the mountain down into tiny rocks, you bypass that threat response entirely. You aren't asking your brain to climb a mountain, you're just asking it to pick up one small pebble.
And they share this incredible contrast between two different types of students that perfectly illustrates this mechanism. First, you have the half-hearted students.
Yes. The ones who come in hot.
Exactly. They are bursting with excitement, promising they are going to study for an entire hour every single day.
They're relying on a massive initial spike in dopamine, which is notoriously volatile.
And impossible to sustain, right?
Completely impossible.
So within a week, they fade out completely. They only study when they have free time or when they feel particularly inspired.
Which is the literal definition of being half-hearted. Your body is present, but your commitment is hovering at about 30%.
Right. But then you have the other student. She is described in the source as the relentless student.
And she wasn't the star of the class.
No, she wasn't the fastest learner at all, but she made one fundamental decision. She sent a 30-second English voice note to her teacher every single day for 30 days.
30 seconds.
Yep.
Perfectly calibrated tiny rock.
Yes. Sometimes she was exhausted from a brutal day at work. Sometimes she was super stressed out, but she sent the audio note anyway.
And the result?
After 30 days, her voice completely changed. She was confident, she was relaxed, her pronunciation smoothed out.
She didn't become a Hollywood star. She just became the person who didn't stop.
Exactly. And the secret to her success was treating that 30-second task as non-negotiable.
That is the critical operative phrase right there. Non-negotiable.
The analogy they use is brushing your teeth. You don't wake up in the morning and hold a board meeting in your head to negotiate whether or not you're going to brush your teeth today.
You certainly shouldn't be.
Right. You don't wait for inspiration to strike before picking up the toothbrush. You just do it. It's entirely non-negotiable.
So for you listening, that might mean reading one single page of a book every day or writing 2 sentences in a journal.
But wait, let me push back on that a bit.
Okay, what's the pushback?
Doesn't making a hobby or a personal passion non-negotiable, like brushing your teeth, strip all the joy out of it?
That's a fair point.
It just sounds like you're taking something you supposedly love and turning it into a mandatory, joyless chore.
It's a valid concern, but we have to look at how the prefrontal cortex expends energy.
Okay.
When you wake up and ask yourself, do I feel like practicing my English today? Do I have the energy to go for a run?
Yeah.
You are forcing your brain to make an executive decision.
You're engaging in an active negotiation with yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that negotiation creates cognitive load and decision fatigue. You are literally burning glucose and depleting the very energy reserves you need to actually do the task.
Oh, wow. So the internal debating is exhausting us before we even put our running shoes on.
Precisely. Operating in that half-hearted space, constantly deciding whether or not to commit on any given Tuesday, is neurologically draining.
So making it non-negotiable fixes that.
By making the tiny step non-negotiable, you entirely eliminate the cognitive load of the decision. You shift the action from the prefrontal cortex, which handles complex decision-making,
to the basal ganglia, which handles automatic habits.
yes. You don't debate it, you just execute it. And while that might sound like a chore initially, being relentless about these tiny rocks builds a deep, lasting foundation of self-trust.
So the joy doesn't come from the motivation to start.
Right. The joy comes from the psychological pride of having consistently shown up.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though.
Okay?
If the secret is that mechanically simple, like just taking small, non-negotiable steps to bypass decision fatigue, why do we still constantly fail at it?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right. Why is it so incredibly hard to just do the small thing?
Because you are fighting millions of years of evolutionary programming that is actively screaming at you to seek comfort and conserve energy.
It's not just me being lazy.
No, the biological imperative is homeostasis, keeping everything exactly as it is.
Anna and Jake talk about how much our brains absolutely adore comfort. We love the soft sofa. We love algorithmic scrolling on our phones.
We love the exact same food and the exact same routines.
Yeah. Any kind of growth or deviation from that routine feels like stepping into a freezing cold shower. It is an uphill biological battle.
A new workout routine or a new study schedule is interpreted by the primitive brain as an unnecessary expenditure of calories, which, historically speaking, was a threat to survival.
Because of that perceived threat, we become absolute masters of self-sabotage.
So we are brilliant at it.
Jake shares this hilarious but painful story about his attempt to start exercising. He spent 6 months creating this beautiful, elaborate Excel spreadsheet.
I love this story.
It's so good. It had color-coded cells. It had specific muscle groups mapped out. It had optimal timing. It was a relentless, highly organized masterpiece of a spreadsheet.
But the actual physical execution of those workouts.
Zero. He had a relentless spreadsheet, but a completely half-hearted body. He never lifted a single weight.
It's so common, though.
I love this because it's like buying a bunch of incredibly expensive professional hiking gear, bringing it home, laying it all out beautifully on your bed, taking a picture of it for social media, and then just taking a 3-hour nap.
We constantly confuse the preparation for the action.
Yes. Why do we do that?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is a brilliant example of how dopamine tricks the brain.
How so?
When you are color-coding that spreadsheet, your brain is getting a dopamine hit that mimics the feeling of actually achieving the goal.
Wait, really? Just from planning it?
Just from planning it.
Yeah.
You get the neurochemical reward of feeling productive without having to endure the caloric expenditure or the physical discomfort of the actual workout.
That is the ultimate evolutionary loophole.
It really is.
And when you try to close that loophole and actually step into the arena, like going to the gym for the first time at 40 years old, which they mention in the discussion, you don't feel like a superhero.
No, you do not.
The reality is perfectly described in the audio. You feel like a cute potato.
A very apt, if slightly tragic, description.
You are a cute potato surrounded by fitness models. It is intensely awkward. Your face gets hot, your heart races, and you just want the ground to swallow you whole.
That is social evaluation threat in action.
Social evaluation threat.
Yes. Your cortisol spikes, and your brain triggers a rapid spiral of negative thoughts to protect you from the perceived humiliation.
It tells you, you don't belong here. Everyone is staring.
Exactly. Just go home to the sofa where it's biologically safe.
And if we listen to that protective spiral, we end up stuck in what Anna and Jay call a rut. You know, the cycle. Wake up, go to work, come home, stare at a screen, go to sleep, repeat.
You end up living your life on the fence.
Right. You aren't a total victim of circumstance, but you certainly are the captain of your life either.
You're just stuck in the middle, complaining about the late bus, but never actually doing anything to change your route.
So how do we get off the fence?
Getting off that fence requires a very specific cognitive override. You have to consciously adopt the mindset of uncomfortable now, stronger later.
Uncomfortable now, stronger later. I like that.
When that lazy protective voice shows up and tells you to just stay on the sofa and scroll, you have to develop the strictness to tell yourself to snap out of it.
You must actively interrupt the comfort-seeking pattern.
Yes.
Which is obviously much easier said than done. How do we actually initiate that interruption?
If we are deeply entrenched in the rut, wrapped in the warm, heavy blanket of our comfort zone, how do we break the noise and actually start?
Yeah, exactly.
Usually it requires a catalyst, something external and deeply uncomfortable that shatters the routine.
Like a wake-up call, the reality check that you just can't ignore.
Precisely. A wake-up call creates immediate cognitive dissonance.
The source material gets really real about this part. A wake-up call isn't usually some pleasant spark of inspiration.
No, it's rarely pleasant.
It's a doctor looking at your charts and saying, if you continue living like this, your health is gonna fail.
Or, in the context of their language learners, it's the moment your child asks you for help with their English homework.
And you realize with this heavy, sinking sadness that you can't help them.
Those moments pierce right through the protective layers of the comfort zone. They are painful because they strip away all the excuses.
They hurt deeply, but the speakers reframe these painful moments as gift.
A gift.
Yeah, because that sharp, undeniable pain is the exact signal you need to tell you it's time to flip the script.
Ah, it is a moment of narrative intervention.
Yes, changing the actual story you tell about yourself. Because we hold on to these old scripts so tightly.
The script that says, I always quit, or I'm too old to start learning.
Or I missed my window of opportunity. But flipping the script means looking at that internal narrative and consciously rewriting the dialogue.
I always quit becomes I used to quit, but now I am learning how to finish things.
As they put it, your life is a notebook. You don't have to keep writing the exact same sad story forever just because you started it. You can just turn the page.
To realize you have the power to turn the page, however, you have to actually be able to hear your own thoughts.
And that brings us to a prescription that might be the absolute most challenging piece of advice we've uncovered today.
The 10 minutes of absolute silence.
The 10 minutes of absolute silence.
The complete sensory reset.
They suggest finding 10 minutes where you have absolutely no phone, no notifications, no music, no podcasts, just sitting by a window or taking a walk completely alone with your own mind.
Just you and your thoughts.
The idea is that in that profound silence, your true voice finally returns. Not the voice of your demanding boss, not the expectations of your parents, and definitely not the algorithmic voice of Instagram telling you what you need to buy to be happy.
Your actual voice.
Right. And the terrifying thing is, that voice asks some brutally honest questions.
It asks questions like, if I continue exactly like this for the next 5 years, will I actually be fulfilled?
Or, why did I stop doing the things that used to make me feel alive?
10 minutes of silence sounds absolutely terrifying for our modern brains.
I have to ask you, are we chronically scrolling on our phones, reading the news, watching endless short-form videos, checking emails, just to actively drown out that inner voice? Are we just terrified of the questions it wants to ask us?
This raises an important question about our relationship with modern distraction. Yes, we use continuous digital input as a potent numbing agent.
To avoid the silence.
Exactly. Because when the noise stops, the baseline truth bubbles to the surface, and the truth often demands behavioral change.
Which, as we discussed with the cute potato feeling, feels like a freezing cold shower.
Exactly. But it's crucial to understand that this honest inner voice is not an adversary. It's not there to attack you or make you feel guilty.
What is it there for, then?
It is trying to course correct you. If you can push through that initial agonizing discomfort of the silence, it is the ultimate preventative measure against long-term burnout. It's how you evaluate if your daily actions actually align with your core values. It's how you ensure that you are truly showing up for your own life rather than just sleepwalking through it.
Showing up. That phrase carries so much weight when you strip away the excuses.
It really does.
Showing up isn't just about physically being in the room. It's bringing your attention, your effort, and your resilience to the present moment.
It's the antithesis of being half-hearted.
Yeah.
It is the conscious neurological decision that I am not done with myself yet.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? We've talked about Jake fighting his alarm clock at 6:30 a.m.
The student sending 30-second voice notes to bypass her amygdala.
The evolutionary fear of being a cute potato at the gym.
And the terrifying prospect of sitting quietly for 10 minutes.
The ultimate takeaway from this deep dive isn't about grand, sweeping achievements. It's not about becoming a superstar or completely eradicating your desire to be lazy.
Because that's biologically impossible anyway.
Right. It's simply about the quiet, unglamorous act of not giving up on yourself today. Even if you pressed play on this deep dive while sitting on a crowded bus or dragging yourself out of a warm bed or sitting in your pajamas half awake, you showed up.
You didn't quit at the first sign of friction.
You are actively choosing to take one small, tiny rock and move it up the mountain.
And manipulating those small, boring actions is exactly where the science of transformation actually lives.
So as you go back to your routine today, I want to leave you with a completely different thought to mull over. We've talked a lot about how our brains hate friction.
They despise it.
Our entire modern world is engineered to eliminate discomfort. We have one-click deliveries, algorithmic feeds that predict our thoughts, and perfectly temperature-controlled environments.
Everything is designed to be frictionless.
It leaves you wondering, in a society that is desperately trying to make everything effortless, is voluntarily choosing the friction of a small, difficult daily habit actually the ultimate act of modern rebellion?
That's a powerful way to look at it.
Think about that the next time you're tempted to hit snooze.